Hello and welcome to the Football Roundup. My name is David Ronney and I'm joined by Luke, Barry and Bryce Donaldson and a very special guest. It's Sky Sports presenter David Tanner. David, thank you for coming on the show.
You're very welcome. Thank you for thanking me.
And we're just going to ask you a few questions regarding your career in the media and maybe Scottish football as a whole. Bryce, you're going to open up the first question.
So the first question is, what path did you take to getting your kind of job in the media?
I was 16 and still at school, and I was in 6th year, and I was listening to Radio Clyde, and Dougie Donnelly was the morning show presenter in those days. He was also the sports scene presenter back then, so big name. And Dougie mentioned some radio training course that was being run by the kind of community branch at Radio Clyde. And I thought, right, I think I'll phone up. And I did, and they said, well, you're still at school, so we can't take you in. But thanks for calling. And then the following day, I got a phone call from somebody who was helping out with this radio training course. And he was calling me from Radio Clyde because I could hear the theme tune of a programme I recognised, Chip Kyung's Souvenir Programme, no less. And I could hear it being edited in the old reel-to-reels. And this fella, who was called Dougie Jackson, said, look, I've heard all about you. Would you like to come in to Radio Clyde and meet us and have a cup of tea? So I got on the train into town and out to Clydebank, and they said, great, so you're starting on Saturday, it's 15 quid a shift, tell us about yourself. And I was like, what? And that was me. So I was the tea boy at Radio Clyde, and then I got another phone call after a couple of programmes at Radio Clyde serving the presenter his tea, Paul Cooney. It was coffee, milk with 1 sugar, I still remember it. And I got a call from the Dougie Jackson, who said to me, look, why don't you come in and do this radio training course? And that's what I did. I bunked off school on Monday afternoon, got the bus into town, and it was held at the old Hospital Radio Glasgow, and that was really the start of it. So it was a bit of an unusual route in, but it's a classic case of, if you don't ask, you don't get it. So yeah, it was really exciting in the first 16-year-old. I mean, I was literally, for midweek games, I would turn up in my school uniform and school tie. Still do.
And how long did you kind of stay at Radio Clyde from 16 to...
I left when I was 23. So initially I was the T-boy, production assistant, sorry. And the first year, which was season 88-89, I was at school. I was still at 6th year at school. And then the following year, 89-90, I was here in Merchiston, doing the journalism HND as it was then, at Napier Polytechnic as it was. So I hated it. I have to say, I absolutely hated it. I hated everything about Edinburgh. Didn't necessarily enjoy everything in the course. Some of it was very, very out of date. In contrast to today's journalism course, which is well ahead of the game. I was being taught from my lecturers' pasts rather than my future. So it was absolutely awful. And at the end of the first year, I failed shorthand, and I think about 80% of the class failed shorthand. So there was a reset offered, but I'd been offered a job at Radio Clyde at that point, a full-time job, and I thought, well, this is where I want to be. This is where I've always wanted to be. I'll just go for that. I regret that now, actually. Although I came back and did a master's at Napier in my late 30s, just so that I had the documentation. So yeah, it was a process that evolved, different roles, different commitments and so on. But I went to it full time in 1990, just before the World Cup, Italia 90. In Scotland were there, of course. And I left in '95 when I got a phone call from STV.
And you've worked in the media, you just said, for a long time, both in radio and television.
I still quite look good. I think I look good for it. I look possibly younger than I am. Say yes, David.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Did
you say yes?
I'll say yes now.
What would you say?
100%.
Thanks.
But when
Glad we cleared that one up.
when it comes to sport, what do you think is different with regards to coverage on these platforms? Is there more maybe freedom in radio, would you say, or is it?
I mean, the coverage of Scottish football is completely different. It actually changed 27 years ago this week. The 1st of April 1990 was there was an Old Firm game played on a Sunday, which was unusual. And it was live on what was called BSB. And BSB was one of the component parts of what became B-Sky B. There was Sky and there was BSB. And Sky had the satellites that we know now, and BSB used the squareals. And you can still see them. There's the station bar at Goring? They've got a squareal. It's like a flat square dish. And BSB broadcast Rangers v Celtic live on the 1st of April 1990, and that was the first time that a British league game in Britain had been televised live on satellite. Everyone always thinks it was Terry Sheringham's goal in Notts Forest at the birthplace of Sky. It was actually on BSB first. So that was a big turning point. Because before that there had been a reluctance to embrace live TV. Old Firm games were always at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Big games were always at 3 o'clock on a Saturday or at 7:30 on a Wednesday night, never a Tuesday night. So that period there was when it began to change. And I can remember the 1984 League Cup final, so I was just starting high school, which was Celtic Rangers, famous for an Ali McCoist hat-trick, it was the last Old Firm hat-trick until Dembele this year. That game was the first League Cup final played on a Sunday, because before that it was always at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, so that wasn't live on TV, there were other games on. So the 84 League Cup final was a bit of a change, Sunday football, and then the satellite revolution begins in Scotland before England in 1990, and that's where it begins to change, because until that point radio was king. The audience at Clyde in those days was 500,000 every Saturday. For an Old Firm week it was 1 million, literally more than 1 in 2 of the population listened, which is breathtaking. You don't get that for on terrestrial TV now. So it was an amazing time, but it was beginning to change. The grip that the daily newspapers had on it, and the grip that for live coverage it was on radio, that began to spun completely off its axis with the advent of TV, subscription TV, and therefore more money to buy rights, and that's where it changed. So it all started to change just as I was serving tea out at Clyde Bank.
So I guess the next best question to ask is, obviously you've worked for radio and television where you need to do lots of preparation for interviews. How much preparation, say for your job now at Sky, will you need to do when you know you've got an interview coming up? And of all the interviews you've done, are there any that particularly stick out for you that you're proud of and you remember were quite sort of important at the time?
Yes, yeah, very much so. Preparation for an interview, I would always, it's so easy now with the internet. It's unbelievably easy. So you've got to take the chance to really get to know somebody before you go and see them. There's so many quirky people throughout their career do odd interviews and quirky interviews, and if having them all in one place, that is the internet, means you can pick out so many little different things, and it just might give you something to bite on. So there might be the interview might be about a specific subject, but if you've got the time just to go freestyle a little bit, that's often where the lines are. As an example, I did sit down with. Hello. It's very interactive. I did a sit down at Hearts recently with Callum Patterson, and it was unusual, and it was in front of an audience, just 45 minutes or so it lasted. And I did a bit of research on him. I knew that he was a fisherman, which I'd seen on Instagram. I mean, that sort of information you would not know unless a player volunteered it to you, 10, 15 years ago. So I knew that. But I randomly said to him, if you weren't a footballer, what would you be? Now, you'll not find, that's not me reacting to the news, it's not me reacting to anything that I know about him. I just threw in a random one. And he spoke at length about his ambition was to be a dentist. I don't know about you, I would not want Callum Patterson anywhere near my house, and I told him that. But that was so random, I loved that. So sometimes the research doesn't matter a jot, but if you do know what's happening, if you do know what they think about this, if they have said something that's unusual, particularly with managers, if they have said something where they've just lied or got a spin on it that's so ridiculous you've got to challenge them, then you do that. So definitely research is hugely, hugely important. But at the same token, as you guys have shown today, if you listen to what your interviewee is saying, the reaction is often as good as anything, So that would be, I mean, the research, it's hard to put a time on it. It could take 10 minutes, it could take half an hour, it could take an hour. But if you can get good source material. Do you know what? When I was a kid, we used to always buy Shoot magazine. It used to come in the same day as the Beano, and I still get the Beano. That was a joke.
I remember the Shoot manuals that you'd get every year. Tell you.
I thought Beano discontinued as well recently.
Yeah, it's online now. Well done. Good news awareness. But they used to always these profiles on footballers. There's always a name, George Burley, team Ipswich Town, Scotland, position right back, date of birth, whatever, born Newcombe, Ayrshire, biggest influence in career. It was usually the person that was like my dad for driving me or taking me on the bus to football. Or, more so back then, it was the man, it was always a man then, who took my school football team. And that was a real area of growth for footballers back then. Favourite holiday, Blackpool. Favourite car, Ford Cortina, Ford Capri, whatever it was. And you got all these, and there was always something in there, some little tip that made you go wow. And they never expanded on it because it was just a sheet that was posted out to the club. The guy filled it in and sent it back. So there was no room for the journalists to go, what? Say what? So it's about the little details, and those make the difference. In terms of, I think my most famous interview was one with Malky Mackay, who had become entangled with the billionaire owner of Cardiff City, and he had become quite a thorn in his side, and there had been a racial, sexist element to some information that had been leaked about Mackay, and it was a smear campaign. And I'm roughly the same age as Malky Mackay. We've known each other since we were teenagers. A guy I've got a lot of time for. He's a real leader of men, and he was in a really bad situation. It was front page news in the London editions of the papers. It was on the news, on TV news. It was just a hellish state of affairs. And basically, he and his agent worked out that they had to fight back and get their message across. So I had texted his agent and said, look, I think we need to say something. If you do choose to do so, I'm available. I've had a shower and a shave today, and I come back. And anyway, that's what happened before me. I said, look, we want to do it. Right, great. I said, okay, when do you want to do it? When can we get here? So I had to get scramble awkwardly. But the most important thing was for me, I said to them, look, I'm not here to apologise for you. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to hit you with them on the chin. You either sink or swim, it's up to you. I'm not an apologist for anybody, particularly in a sensitive story like this. And that's what I did. And that story ran on all the main news networks, because the agreement was, okay, if we give you exclusively as such, you have to give, after you broadcast it, you have to give the tape to BBC. So it was on Football Focus, BBC News, ITN News, Channel 4. I mean, it was literally everywhere. Front page, full transcript of the 45-minute interview in the Daily Mail, the Times, every newspaper. And that's been the biggest one. But my favourites are the ones with young footballers who've, by headering or kicking a piece of leather into the back of a net, have become legends like that. And I can think of Tony Watt, who was a teenager who played for Celtic. And Tony Watt, Celtic were down to the bare bones ahead of a European game against Barcelona. And this kid came on and scored the bloody winner against Barcelona. And he was, you hear the phrase bouncing off the walls. This kid was literally bouncing off the walls. He was gaga. And that was nice. Guys who scored the last minute winner in cup finals out on the pitch, with the fans all over about you, it's like being a part of the game. Those are exciting. And guys like the late Johan Cruyff, I used to interview every year. And Cruyff is the architect of what is now Barcelona Football Club. The new stadium is being named after him, in fact. He created the modern game of football with Luis Michels as coach. Certainly the greatest European player there's ever been. You could argue that Ronaldo comes close, but Madeira's probably in Africa, isn't it? But Cruyff was so set the agenda, opinions, hated Mourinho, so Mourinho would get battered up and down the interview, loves Pep Guardiola, and he'd been responsible for the birth of Guardiola as a player and as a coach, and he was just unbelievable. But whenever he walked in the room, no matter how many times I did him in St Andrews or in all the golf courses that he played in here, or in Barcelona, I interviewed him in Amsterdam. Whenever he walked in the room, I always went, "Oh, here's Johan Cruyff," So those are the ones that excite. I did Ronaldo after his debut from Real Madrid, which was exciting. It went around the world. The Beckham interviews, whenever you finish with him, you could literally put the phone down and my news editor when the phones all started beeping with the content of this interview. So these are when you get the global names who, whenever they speak infrequently. Whenever they do speak, it's a story, no matter what they say. Those are the ones that excite.
So you can say in those style of interviews, even though you are being professional as a journalist, you're still arguably maybe a fan.
No, I'm never a fan.
Never a fan.
I think you can be in awe and admire someone. If you meet a Prime Minister or a US President, and I've met both over the years, you go, wow, here's
important people.
Yeah, here's someone with an aura. But no, my view on it is that if you're going to be a professional in sport, you're not a fan. So if Kenny Dalglish is a Rangers fan, is wearing a green and white strip and is running towards the Rangers goal in a cup final, it doesn't matter. He's not a fan of Rangers anymore. He's not a football fan. He's a professional footballer. When Scotland play England on June the 10th, I'd like to think that if Jordan Rhodes or James Morrison, the lads who were born and raised in England but wearing a blue shirt, and let's be honest, if you're born and raised in England, you're going to be an England fan. You might have a soft spot for Scotland as well. If your dad's a Jock, your granny's from Dundee, I would be thinking that they are thinking of being a sports professional. as they run in on Joe Hart. So I think it's the same for journalists. I feel really strongly about that. I describe myself as a supporter of Scottish football. I'm not a fan as such, because if I'm doing it, I like to be able to walk in a dressing room or walk through a set of supporters and then to think, okay, whether they like me or dislike me, at least know that I'm fair, I'm not affected by, yay, Aberdeen have scored, or yay, Hibs have scored. I don't want to be like that.
Joey Barton's another example where if you track back from his Twitter feed, he's got posts him buying Celtic strips and then a few years later signs with Rangers. So it's like that. But on that kind of, regarding that kind of question, when you're tasked to ask your pundit panel questions regarding the match you're covering at the time, how do you strike the balance of giving your own view of the match while staying as neutral as possible?
I don't give my own view. That's the easy way of doing it. I ask questions and let them. I think nowadays there's too many people passing opinions in football matches. You have to be clear what they're talking about. Some of the stuff I read now, I hear now. I'm really lucky. I've got usually one or two managers, players, ex-players, ex-managers sitting next to me who can advise me inside and out. But when I'm with them, you pick up a lot, and they'll brief me during the game, and I'll ask questions during the game, so you kind of know where they're going or where they want to go. And by the same token, they have similar conversations with the guys who do the VT, so that they can illustrate their points with the appropriate clip. It's not always easy to find the appropriate clip. So yeah, you've got to be very careful. You've got to be careful to be as objective as you possibly can. I mean, listen, sometimes we did Kilmarnock Rangers last week, and if football stopped, if anybody came in from Mars and said, "What the hell is this? What's the attraction of this?" It was awful. And sometimes you can roll your eyes and say, "Well, you're always trying to find the positive in it." There's a kind of generation of pundits, there's one in particular, the pundits who come in and just batter everything. I think we have to be careful we don't get dragged into that kind of negative cycle where, if the referee makes a mistake, he's the worst referee in the world, he has to be sacked, he's a bottler, he made a mistake. That's it.
Yeah, life goes on.
Made a mistake, so you got to, it's about eliciting, asking a question that elicits an answer, I can leave with my chin and say, shouldn't he have scored this? And she said, well, no. Then I look like a fool, so you've got to be careful just to be, just make sure it's open enough without, you can sometimes load them a little bit. I mean, clearly, big Chris O'Wellman, one of the most decent guys in football, but dreadfulness. Playing for Scotland against Norway. Lee Griffiths had a shocker.
Was that the Norway game?
At the Slovenia game recently. I know he should have scored that. He knew he should have scored it. The viewers do, so it's you almost want to say, why, how did he manage to miss that? And again, in a way where you're not battering them, because that you just have to be fair, ultimately fair. There's so much noise, nastiness, and negativity. At your fingertips now on Twitter, social media, internet, God, even the papers. You've got to make sure that doesn't almost pollute your mind and pollute your approach to dealing with people, dealing with the public, dealing with footballers, ex-footballers, pundits, viewers, fans, colleagues and so on, so you've got to be very, very careful about that. Just keep a good perspective.
And do you kind of think, as we're seeing more kind of ex-players come into the punditry roles, and some of them have kind of columns in newspapers now as well, do you think that a journalist role is becoming a wee bit more important to almost be a voice of reason as well as just keeping everything on track?
Balance, I think, we've got to, as journalists, we've got to give make sure that the coverage is balanced. One of the most difficult bits about my job is there are two massive football clubs in Scotland. And there are two massive supports following them, and the other support, the blue fans obsess over the green club as much as they do the blue club, and the green fans obsess over the blue club as they do the green club. So you basically get most of the country hanging on every word about these particular clubs. And what you can be very careful not to do is say, this season is Rangers are awful today. But maybe Dundee were good when they beat them. You've got to try and keep that balance. But ultimately, there's so much in money. The talent on the pitch when you do a Celtic or a Rangers game, they're at different levels at the moment as never before. You ultimately analyse, they should win every game, and if they don't, you're analysing why they don't. But you've got to make sure you give credit and analyse how the other guys have done that. So it's about getting that balance, and you can become swept away in noise, if those 50,000 fans baying for their team's blood if they've lost, you've got to be careful with that. But I think that we as journalists, listen, we're trained observers, so we spot things. We should be able to express it in a way that's balanced, articulate, interesting, and we'll always do that better than someone who's not trained in that. Now listen, it's not to say that sportsmen and women, ex-professional athletes or current professional athletes can do these things as well, but by and large they're asked to do different things. But Gary Lineker is a good example. Gary Lineker, acts like a journalist when he's doing matches. He doesn't comment very much on football games. But he sets up the questions for the pundits who do comment. So when I was a kid, one of the main journalists in Scotland was Doug Bailey at the Sunday Post, and Big Dougie had played centre half for Scotland and Rangers, and was acting as a journalist, typewriter in the hot metal days. And Terry Butcher worked for me at Radio Clyde. I was the producer, and Terry had been, the year before was a manager of Sunderland in the Premier League. And a couple of years before that had been captain of England in the World Cup semi-finals. He actually was his copy, his match reports was better than most of the reporters. So he had a natural flair for it. You hear him now; he's got a natural flair for that. So we will always have a place. We'll always have a place because ultimately, what we do is a skill. It's an art form. So our training and experience should always put us ahead of the game. But and the pros will have their places.
I think you've already given us three plenty of pointers, especially as a lecturer for us in class as well. But if you could give us any one piece of advice as aspiring sports journalists of how to sort of make it, how to be successful, what do you think is the most key factor to young people like ourselves trying to get into the world of not just football but any kind of sports or indeed any kind of journalism?
Turn up.
Good start.
I mean, it is. I mean, you be there. I mean, that's the main thing. If you don't turn up, you've got a problem. So that is the one. Be reliable. I know it sounds like a basic, but it seems less important now than it did maybe 20 years ago. I think be professionally courteous. Listen well. Be sensible. Be balanced. Think, am I going to see this person again? So, smile. If you work in TV, smile.
We all just smiled there when you said that as well. I know the status.
it's a good life skill.
Yeah.
It's a good broadcasting skill. I remember Jock Brown, who was a TV commentator, in fact still is commentating in his 70s on the Sun app. Big Jock was a lawyer to trade, as well as being the commentator for BBC Scotland. And he dramatically was offered the job of general manager at Celtic Football Club. And Big Jock took it, and there was a lot of friction around Celtic at that time. Fergus McCann was at the top, and Jock took a lot of the public flack. And I had been given, I'd spoken to somebody who was a senior person within the club and was telling me what Jock Brown had done, it was wrong, and I chinned him on it. And afterwards, Jock said, David, I've known you for a long time. That was really, really hard. I said, well, Jock, I've got to ask you questions. You're in a position of power. It's my job to keep you in check. Yeah, but I feel as though you're working an agenda. I said, yeah, aye. Of course I am. I'm a journalist, I've done my research, I spoke, and so yeah, I know where I'm going. So yeah, there is an agenda. Do you know what? He said, when I was a lawyer, whenever I was appearing in court, I always made sure that I smiled because it made people like me. It made people softer with me. And even he said it was a good way of disguising a hard question as a softer one. And I thought, do you know, that's really good advice. And I always say to people, if you smile when you walk into a room, you boss the room. So that's also useful as well. The way you kind of conduct yourself is important. So is that enough to get you through to your retirement day?
Potentially. Well, we've got a few years ahead of us, I think, just yet. But maybe a bit too soon to think about that. But I think one question I'm kind of interested to know, David, is, was it always about the media for yourself? Would you ever fancy a career as a professional player, or was there ever a dream of yours to play? I know most people have that sort of a dream when they're a small kid, but did you ever want to, or realistically have the chance to play as a football? Or
not realistically, and I always wanted to. Yeah, absolutely. But I've got tapes, or my mother has got tapes in the house, audio tapes, audio cassettes. Have you heard of cassettes, guys?
I have.
Oh, well done.
Back in the day though.
There's cassettes of me reading out the sports pages and saying, this is the Radio Cloud sports desk, and as I got older, these things became more. I must have been 8, 9, 10 when I recorded that. So I always had that ambition. I wanted to be a radio commentator. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather, was blind, but totally blind from birth. But he used to go to the football every week. First time he went, he climbed in the back of a car. He heard a couple of guys talking in a bar, and he climbed on top of the car. And this would be 18 years ago now. So we held on to the back of our chowder bank, which was quite common apparently in those days, and went to the football. And then when my father comes along, my father from the age of 8, so 1949-50, commentates to my grandfather on his shoulders, and more blind men from the blind asylum, the blind craft as it's called now, went to the games. And I started commentating for the blind at games as well. So I think it was, it was in the DNA, if you like, so that kind of got me going. I'd never had any thoughts of working in TV until Jerry McNee called me from STV and said, would you like to come over here? And I had to think long and hard about it, actually, because what I was doing, at 23, I was in a position of strength and authority, and was offered quite a big pay rise to stay, but I'm glad I didn't stay.
it's very true, thank you.
So it was a good opportunity. That was kind of going off at a sideline for me, but yeah, I always wanted to do the radio, to be the commentator, and to be the guy that said, this is what's happening in the football world.
And you've watched Scottish football for a number of years. How have you seen it evolve from say now compared to say 10 years ago?
Well, I mean, it's contracted beyond all recognition in the last 5 years on the back of one thing, and that was they voted Rangers out or didn't vote them into the league, and that was suicidal. It killed the audience, it killed the media value, the TV contract was ripped up. And so the TV contract that's in place at the moment is the bailout contract from 2012. I mean, with the exception of Glasgow Rangers, who in defiance filled the ground every week, it didn't matter, it was in Division 3, then the league, then won the championship. But the top league suffered and contracted. You know, every way to measure a football league, crowd, investment, audience, everything contracted. And we were building, so TV figures for this year are up well over 60% on last year. So there's it's in the back of Rangers being up. Brendan Rodgers has helped fill Celtic Park. So we're rebuilding. We've been at ground zero in 2012 and we're building, and this year's been a great rebuild. We get Celtic back in the Champions League, so that brought in a lot of money, mainly to Celtic. Whereas going back 20 years, I did the first, when I worked in radio, we did the first season of the Champions League, 25 years. And Rangers were in the first one. They beat Leeds, the champions of England, home and away to get there, and that was absolutely massive. So that was a part where new money came into the game. On the back of that season in the Champions League, Rangers brought Brian Laudrup. They brought on again on the back of that season. They brought Paul Gascoigne, and that signing put Scotland on another level for a while. So it's come a long way. But listen, in 1988 when I started, we still had two part-time teams, Hamilton Accies and Clydebank in the Premier Division in Scotland. So in many ways it's gone forward. If you look at that, in terms of quality of player, it's been produced, the system broke down. So we haven't been to the World Cup since 1998. So that also brings recession. Nations qualify for big finals, they get a lot of money, prize money, because they get in Northern Ireland are building pitches all over the place and they can't believe the luck. And we've fallen far behind from that sense. So there's pros and cons. But on the plus side at the moment, we are building, we are going up the way, but from ground zero, as I call it.
Do you kind of think that the future is looking bright? We've got more young players, kind of like Lee Griffiths, who's still in his early 20s, Kieran Tierney coming through at Celtic as well, still very young. Do you think there's almost a resurgence of players coming through to kind of build Scottish football back up?
No, I don't think it's changed at all, to be honest with you. The system is changing, and there's been investment in facilities. It's all about facilities. I mean, I was brought up in Glasgow where the pitches are red blaze and bloody awful. You wouldn't send your worst enemy out on red blaze. Whereas now there's 3G pitches and not as good as the grass pitches that you get around Edinburgh, but it's a start. We've got indoor facilities now. There's the Tory Glen in Glasgow. Oriam here in Edinburgh is the latest. There's one in Aberdeen, Ravenscraig and Motherwell. So these are big steps forward. Sport is about facilities and then using the facilities. A bit of coaching helps, but ultimately it's about playing the game. The generations, the great Scottish players. I was on a train yesterday actually, and I randomly sat next to a guy called Willie Johnston who scored for Rangers in the Cup Winners' Cup final when they won. And famously was sent home from Argentina '78. Willie Johnson was just sitting on a train. I sat next to him. His generation of player learned to play on the street. He's from a pit town in Fife. He learned to play on the street. Constantly playing and working the touch. That's how you make good players. So we don't have that anymore. We've got cars in the street, and so we've got it. And we've got all manner of devices to distract my son's generation. So we've got to find different ways of doing that. And Scotland has been very slow in doing that. And that's the FA's fault. It's individuals within the FA's fault. Countless job titles have come and gone, but it's not improved that much. But we are seeing there's been investment. Ultimately, we're not producing. We're producing players that are all the same now. We have, and you can see it already in the national team. We've got countless midfielders, tidy midfielders who can pass. We don't have any centre backs that can header a ball away, or a centre forward that can break the back of the net and burst the net. Lee Griffiths, you mentioned, comes through outside the system. James McFadden, who's our last great kind of provider of great moments, golden goals, goals against France and Netherlands and all the rest of it. Faddy goes out with the system, the old-fashioned way, playing in the street. It's actually James McFadden, not people know this, James McFadden was knocked down by a car and broke his leg on 2 separate occasions, playing in the street in the north of Glasgow, near where I'm from. So, he was one of the last organically grown footballer, and they're now mass producing. There's an imbalance. Everyone's tidy. Everyone looks a bit like the Barcelona midfield. There's no point in being good in midfield if you don't have the defence and the goal scoring knack up front. So there's a lot that needs to change. I'm hopeful actually that it will get better. Malky Mackay at the helm, good operator. I like what he's saying. He wants to get reserve football back so that young players can play alongside veterans or first team players in the reserves rather than these under 20 leagues which just don't work. They just learn mistakes and learn bad habits from players at the same age, whereas they learn good habits as a matter from playing alongside old pros.
I think that's a wrap there. A very interesting conversation there regarding working within the media and, of course, Scottish football as a whole.
Thank you very much. They were very good questions, though.
Yeah, it was a very good discussion.
From all 3 of you.
Thank
you.
you.
Don't mind being past remarkable. Enjoyed that.
I think we all learnt, listened to that.
Yeah, definitely.
The viewers listening also learnt something. I think that's a wrap, as I said. Thanks again for David Tanner for coming on the show, and we'll catch you next time.